Kirby Smart confirms breaking news that Darnell Washington and Tyke Smith are have foot injuries, and it is something that Kirby Smart says is day to day. There's other reporting saying that this will be an injury to both these guys that could take a while to get past, and that they'll probably miss the Clemson game. We're going to talk about all of that right now. Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan. It really has been a long August. If you're watching Georgia, covering Georgia, there's been a ton of news. You've got Darnell and Tyke today, Jermaine Burton being hurt, Owen Connon being hurt, Eric Gilbert's personal situation. There's a lot going on at Georgia. Scott Cochran. This has not been a typical fall camp. Certainly last year's was not a typical fall camp at all. And I think you're seeing where Georgia, they can't lose a lot more players. Even if they want to have a functioning preseason camp, you're getting to the point now where you just can't lose more guys. And, Darnell, well, one thing, it's becoming pretty clear to me, if nothing else, that this team is going to look very different in November than it is in September. I mean, very different, because you're talking about the addition, very possibly the addition of guys like George Pickens, Dominique Blaylock. They could both play late in the year. George's injury was in March, so he's going to be the one that's the hardest to get back. But you're losing Tyke Smith for the time being. Eric Gilbert is not practicing for the time being. Darnell Washington is not practicing. I mean, those are a lot of good players I just rattled off right there. I don't know how many five-star players I just talked about, but between George, Dominique, Darnell, Smith, and whoever, and Eric Gilbert, I mean, that's multiple five-star players. And you need all the guys you got when you're going up against someone with the firepower that Clemson has. This is going to be a really, really challenging game for the Dogs. If it wasn't already, you can't keep losing players. Now, the statement from Kirby is that those guys are day to day. I don't, he certainly knows more than I do or we do about how long an injury could take, because he's the head coach and he's going to get all of that data and so forth. But, I mean, usually reporting is not that far off. I mean, the Clemson-Georgia game is 17 days from when I'm recording this. And, if it were a minor kind of thing, I don't think, I expect John Fitzpatrick to be back, Warren Erickson to be back, Jermaine Burton, Kyrus Jackson. All these guys right now that I'm mentioning are not practicing, or they're it's not that they're not practicing, they're not full go, I guess you could say. Those guys, the bulk of them will be back for that Clemson game and beyond. But it's going to be challenging if you lose more players. You're kind of at the point here where maybe you can survive the Clemson game. I mean survive. But, you just can't go down with a bunch of injuries. I mean, you think back to the game with Florida a season ago. No George Pickens, no Jordan Davis, no Richard LeCount. I mean, no JT Daniels. I mean, you got to be who you are, and that's the thing. So we'll just see. And injuries come in. I mean, it seems to me in my time covering this thing is that when injuries happen, they seem to just be a rash of things. The Disney dog, for lack of a better term, would tell you, well, you've got Brini who's coming in, and he's been fighting it out with Tyke Smith, and no one's won that spot yet. If you hear the dings, those are emails, and that means either someone's just subscribed, which is happening a lot these days, or you're getting an email. In that case, a subscription. You're getting guys like Brini, who had a good Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and Missouri game, that he's going to have to step up and play. Ryan Godey, Brock Bowers. I mean, John Fitzpatrick, if you're not healthy there, if you don't have John Fitzpatrick, Darnell Washington, you are down to 3 tight ends, which is not how you want to play a game. And none of them with significant experience with Bowers, Godey, or Cedar. So these are not positions that you want to be in right now at receiver. Right this second, like if you were to go out and play today, um, or even scrimmage, you wouldn't have Pickens, you wouldn't have Jackson, you wouldn't have Blaylock. Marcus Roseman, Jack Saint, he is back from what I understand. Burton now has been back. Smith, I think, is okay. Justin Robinson, Ladd McConkey, A.D. Mitchell, and Meeks. You still have a fair amount of guys, but you don't have 3 or 4 of the guys. So you're down to like 7 or 8 receivers. It's just hard to function that way as an offense. I mean, you're going to play 7 or 8 receivers in a game. If not, I mean, you can play 9. Then they're not all 9 going to catch the ball, but you're just at a tipping point. And it's not so bad that you can't. I'm never really an alarmist, I don't think, but I am a realist in that, if we were hearing it from Clemson that they were down Justin Ross and 2 other players or something, and they had issues on the offensive line, and all of a sudden some person can't, it's not been a good stretch of weeks here for Georgia. That's just all there is to it. I mean, they opened up camp 12 days ago. 12 days ago they opened up camp, and it's been bad news after bad news after bad news. I mean, you can't play a sport and have 50% of your starters out. That doesn't work. Now, that's what the scrimmage was the other day. And Georgia's defense is great and everything, but we've seen they can't score points. They cannot score 40 points. They might score a touchdown, maybe. So they need to get as healthy as possible. If Kirby's prognosis, or Ron Corson or whichever MD over there is giving the prognosis that the guys are day to day, okay, then that's a different ball game. Then you're still wondering about Eric Gilbert, and the possibility that perhaps limited possibility that Dominique Blaylock could return for this game. I don't know. That seems maybe, I don't know, but this is going to be a different team at the cocktail party than it is in Charlotte, and they're going to need to figure out how to gut this one out. I mean, it's looking quite clearly now that this is at minimum going to be a knife fight for Georgia. They're down a lot of people, and I'm not trying to go full Larry Munson here. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, you need to be able to field your team, and if you can't, that becomes difficult. I mean, look, when Trevor Lawrence didn't play for Clemson last year, and they went 1-1 with DJ Uiagalelei, I know I said it wrong. I'm still working on that. Uiagalelei. There were a lot of people that dismissed those games. The game against Boston College, Clemson didn't play well in that game. They lost to Notre Dame. Were they different at the end of the year? They were against Notre Dame, that's for sure. And so injuries matter, and it adds up. But Georgia's going to have to figure out how to knife fight their way out of this thing. And we're going to see what kind of mental toughness this program has, because right now it's not looking so hot. This has been a bad 2 weeks in terms of what it could be. It looks very different than that right now. So you don't ever know. But South Carolina's starting quarterback has a foot injury. It looks like he's going to be out for about 2 or 3 weeks. Might not play until the Georgia game, if then. So injuries happen in football. They do. And that's why you got 85 guys. But, man, you don't want to get down to like 6 or 5 wide receivers. I mean, one of which, Ladd McConkey is kind of a widget guy, and 2 of whom have never played. I mean, it's just not a good situation. But we're going to see. I mean, we're going to see. Can you, this isn't, you're not playing Vanderbilt. You're not playing Auburn. But it's close to Auburn. And can you physically put your hands on the other guy who's going to have on an orange jersey, I'm assuming, and maneuver them around? Because if you can do that, then you can win the game. If you're going to be in a knife fight with them, you just better be you better know that ahead of time. But right now, the official word is that Darnell Washington and Tucky Smith are both day to day. There's been a lot of reporting that these guys are going to be out for weeks. Can day to day go to weeks? Yeah, it can. But we're going to see. We're going to see. Go to dogpost.com right now. We'll see you on the website.